life center around timing. When should I go to the doctor? When should I ask my partner to marry me? Some people will tell you, just go with your gut. But my next guest has made a deep dive into the subject and has some scientific answers. Last week when I was in Aspen, I sat down with Daniel Pink, who has written 6 bestsellers. His most recent is When: The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So the biggest question I think people would have is, when am I most productive as a human being?
Yeah, there's a lot of good research on that in a number of different fields. And what it tells us is that in a given day, our cognitive abilities, our brain power, does not remain constant over the course of the day. Our brain power changes over the course of a day. It changes in material ways, and it changes in predictable ways.
One of the things that when looking at this kind of this cycle, it's led you to make a personal decision about when to go to a doctor,
Oh, my.
when to get a medical procedure. Explain this.
Okay, so this is incredible. So basically, in my family, no one is permitted to go to an important doctor appointment or a discretionary hospital visit in the afternoon. Here for Reed, the evidence is overwhelming. Anesthesia errors, 4 times more likely at 3 p.m. than at 9 a.m. Hand washing in hospitals, which is the first line of defense against hospital-acquired infections, massive drop in the afternoons. Doctors are much more likely to prescribe unnecessary antibiotics in the afternoon, more likely to prescribe opioids in the afternoon. Look at colonoscopies. Doctors find half as many polyps in afternoon exams as they do in morning exams. And this is just an example of how, our premise is that it doesn't really matter what time of day we do things or we interact with others. And what the research tells us across literally 24 fields is that it matters a lot because our brain power is not static over the course of a day. And when you know that, you can make different decisions about what you do, and you can make different decisions about your interactions with others.
All right, social life.
Yeah.
Love, friendships. What does timing tell us about all this?
That's a little, the evidence is a little bit less locked down, but we can look at marriage. We can look at some interesting evidence from research done at the University of Utah, for instance, showing that marriages are more likely to last when people get married, first of all, after they have education. No matter what the education level is, there are a lot of education effects on marriage, big time, especially now. People who are more educated are actually far less likely to get divorced. But there's even an effect for getting married after completing your education, no matter what level of education you have. There's also some slight age differences. So you're more likely to stay married if you get married between age 25 and age 32. Now, doesn't mean if you get married at age 33 you're going to get divorced, or if you get married at 27 you're going to. But there are some effects on that.
The most intriguing stuff I've seen about the social element, and you talk about this, is when you are happy in your life in terms of the life cycle. Describe that.
There's some really this is some really powerful research. And what's interesting about this is that this research is very international. We've seen this effect in something like 60 or 70 different countries. One of the things that we see is what's called a U-shaped curve of well-being, where if you plot well-being by age, you see people are fairly happy in their 20s and 30s, a little less happy in their 40s, 50s, mid-50s, that's the bottom, you and I. Then, when people age, they get actually happier. So counterintuitively, people say someone who is 50 is typically less happy than someone who is 70. And what's interesting about that research, and it's hard to figure out why, is that researchers have found this pattern in multiple countries. So if I were to show you the chart for, say, the US and France and the UAE, you might not be able to tell the difference.
The part about that's intriguing to me is that people get really quite happy and satisfied in their 70s.
Right.
And explain why. There's a kind of intuitive answer here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's hard to lock down exactly the reasons why. We can look at some research, like the research of Laura Carstensen at Stanford, who has shown that if you look at the size of people's friendship networks over their age, starts small, expands, and then after about age 60, friendship networks, the size of them, just declines significantly, which seems superficially like a sad story. Oh, I'm old and I don't have any friends. But what happens is, according to Laura Carstensen's research, is that people actually make affirmative decisions to eliminate some of their friends. And they focus only on a core group of people. And when they have fewer friends, but closer friends, and that's one of the things that helps boost well-being later in life.
Daniel Pink,
Always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
And we